Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Stranger Things, Season 5, Episode 4. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's pick it up. Let's break it down, sorry. So, picking up with the Max and Holly of it all. Obviously, Max is like, and as I figured as much, I was like, Max has had to be over to the Wheeler house from time to time over the course of like the time they've known her since season 2 and it's season over throughout season between that and season 3 and then like 4. So I figured like she's a recognizable enough face that Holly would know her, but it's still the thing of you're in a coma in the hospital. She's like, yeah, I know. There's a lot there. And it's like, right, I'm the one that wrote the letter. I didn't want to lie to you, but I need you to get away from Henry because you don't have to worry about him and the monsters. And so Max shows Holly what is essentially her home. And she basically breaks down what happened. And she's like, I did die. But she's like, I don't know what happened, which we know what it is. Like in that moment, 11 sparked something. Like her powers did do something at that moment. She like resuscitated Max. But the problem is like her consciousness was still tied to Vecna. And that's where she ended up. It's so effed up that the scene that she kept returning to, because she's like, I started here, and that's when Henry had massacred all the kids at the lab, and then she went searching around and ultimately ended up right back there again, which is kind of like really, it's a horrendous scene to kind of be stuck as. I mean, there's something even like more twisted and morbid. I mean, to be fair, it's just like 11 was kind of trapped in that loop last season when Brenda was trying to get her powers back and stuff. But either way, I was kind of right about the Max thing. The thing is, I was missing the most pivotal part of that whole equation, and that's memory. I mean, like, because that's where the piggybacking and all that played a part. Like, they set that up last season with, Max hiding away in a good memory to hide away from Vecna, and then obviously 11 using Max's memories to piggyback and find her way to Vecna. So, of course, that's where this all ties into. This isn't some illusion that Henry's creating. He's basically keeping Holly in particular in this good memory, which I'm almost wondering, like, does that mean all the other kids that he's captured? Could we find out this episode that he has other kids? There's at least, 2 other kids in general? Or maybe, no, it might have been 3 other kids. 2 or 3 other kids he already has captured. So I wonder, are they all in other memories as well? Like, are they in separate memories? Like, or does he pick, like, hit a memory of his home at different point in times to be like, so like, there's literally a kid in the exact same situation as Holly, and then another kid's in exactly that same situation, or does he pick different memories and locations to put them? But that's what this is all is. He's bouncing between, like, Max has been running. Because she initially, found her way to her own memories, and obviously that culminated to the night that she died. Because I think what sparked all of it was her listening to the Kate Bush song, like it resonating through, and ultimately she followed it down the rabbit hole. It's interesting to know too, the Henry of it all, that like that memory was of like a young Joyce, and it was also Steve's dad, which I'm like, they have like, I think Robin references Steve's dad about him being like a lawyer or something like that, but I'm like, have we ever actually, maybe we met them in season 1. I definitely feel like we never met them subsequent season, but I feel like we might not have ever met his parents at all, interestingly enough. I don't think we have, but it was like a young Joyce, which is kind of like, well, I guess it would make sense because Vecna probably, I mean, Henry would have probably been around back then. He just would have been even younger, but it's just interesting to know that there is this deeper correlation and connection. I mean, that like he was in the same location as all in, because I mean, obviously a lot of the characters like Hopper and Joyce and them, like they grew up here in Hawkins, so like this is their home, so it makes sense. But still, it's just kind of crazy to think about that. How even deeperly connected this all is. I mean, this is the epicenter of everything, so it makes a lot of sense, but still just kind of interesting to note that. But either way, Max had just went through the rabbit hole and heard all the music and was following it all throughout her memories. Obviously, stuff she would not want to remember. Obviously, these aren't just her memories. These are Vecna's memories of her, specifically every interaction he had with her and connection with her. When her nose first started bleeding, when he first targeted her. And now, like, leading up to, like I said, the season 4 finale, her death. And there's a portal open, just like episode 4 of last season, Billy, where, the others are calling to her and she's running and she's trying to get through the door, but the music stops just as Lucas was holding her hand and he lets go, and that closes the portal, like her through line. I thought maybe she overheard everything and decided to stay for Holly's sake. It's like, no, she was trying to get there, but the portal closed, and then immediately Vecna found her. He's known she's been here the entire time, and he chased after her, but the moment she got to where she is now, her base, her home, he won't go here because for whatever reason, this memory terrifies him so much that he can't go there. So I'm wondering if this has something to do with, maybe this correlates with something about the Upside Down when he got here, and maybe this place correlates to that. I mean, you would assume any terror or trauma he has would definitely be rooted in Brenner. So, like, I don't know if it has anything to do with, Papa in that regard, but for whatever reason, it's given Max a safe haven. But the problem is, like she said, when you're faced with this situation, there's only 3 choices. You take your life, you accept your reality, or escape. But the moment she got trapped here, and knowing she can't leave because now Vecna knows she's here, and the moment she leaves her safety net, he will get her. So she's like, I just kind of had to accept my reality. But now that Holly's here, she found a way to escape. Because Holly, I think it's also like Holly's circumstances of being here is different from Max's. Max got here by extenuating circumstances. So did Holly, but she is in the Upside Down, plugged in to these memories versus the complicated situation that Max is in. So Max wants Holly to go back and play pretend with Henry. What the actual plan is still unclear, but it's the only way for them to get out, and I'm just so curious, like, what that is necessarily. This would also be a great time to have, I think they do a good enough job kind of giving you the base rundown, because Max is supposed to be your insert character, and just in case you're not familiar with A Wrinkle in Time story, which I'm not, they kind of give you that rundown of kind of what it is and kind of drew the parallels to that story. Obviously, I've talked about it recently. Obviously, what's currently airing is It, Welcome to Derry. Not that there's a correlation, but obviously, I guess there's like an It thing in A Wrinkle in Time, something described as an It. So it's like when I see It, all I can think of is Pennywise the Clown, because that's the first It I ever got associated with. So yeah, but that's all we get with Max and Holly this episode. But I'm so curious to find out, like I said, what that plan is, like how, I guess maybe because Holly's circumstances are what they are, it kind of acts as a vehicle to kind of get Vecna to let his guard down, and how that helps him escape, unclear. We also pick up where last episode left off, where the Demogorgon is on its way, and obviously Joyce is trying to talk very nicely to Derek, but he's like, oh, you're kidnapping me. Mr. What's-It's going to protect me from the monsters. It's like, well, he's not. I need you to trust me. Are you going to be a good kid? And Derek's like, yeah. I'm like, he's not. And he pushes Joyce out of the way and tries to run out of love. Will tackles him. He does. I mean, it's dirt in the face, but it's essentially pocket sand. And then manages to run from Robin and Erica, and it's like, oh, this kid, he's such an annoying little shit. I get it. He's fighting back because he thinks he's actually probably being kidnapped. But it's like, once again, from the outside perspective, it's still wild, even though, like I brought it up last episode, our protagonists are kidnapping a kid. And not just him, his entire family. I get it, but it's like, it's the effed up, the hilarity of the effed up situation. But then the Demogorgon shows up, and Will is obviously in his trance where he's seeing through the Demogorgon's eyes, and we have Joyce making it back away, which I thought was interesting. I was like, huh. And Mike kind of correlates to that later on, because it's like, right, the Demogorgon wouldn't be scared of your mom. It's like, your mom's badass, but still, it's like, yeah, she's 5'3". So it's like, yeah, nothing to fear. But it's like, you know what? Why wouldn't a Demogorgon just grab the axe and why would? But it's because in that moment, Will kind of took control of the Demogorgon, because this whole conversation is about him tapping into the the signal, the hive mind, because the closer he is to it, he's able to kind of overload the system, and basically he's able to kind of take advantage of it himself. So, and that's been happening more and more, and that override that he has to the whole hive mind system has been getting stronger and stronger and stronger as he's pushing himself, you know. I mean, and to be fair, like that whole thing has gotten, that whole element of Will has gotten stronger over the years of the show. As time has passed on, that connection has grown stronger and stronger and stronger, and he's able to kind of, like I said, take advantage of it. We'll talk about that in a bit, but perfect timing, because Steve and the others came, ran over the Demogorgon, and it runs, and Steve's like, all right, punch through. Nancy kind of gives the go ahead, and they punch through, and they drive into the Upside Down. It's like, woo! And they continue tracking the thing, but it's speeding up, and they lose it when it hits the wall. Luckily, they were able to get, no, everyone's okay. They got in contact with Hopper and 11, and it turns out they're not in the same location that Hopper and 11 were when they found the wall. Doing some calculations, basically, Dustin, being the smart kid that he is, correlated and figured it's a giant circle around Hawkins, because we've never really dabbled on what the outside of Hawkins looks like, because we know, like, when Vecna landed in the Upside Down, it was a barren wasteland, and for whatever reason he made it look like, well, we don't know that he made it look like Hawkins, but it began to look like Hawkins. And once again, why did time freeze here? Like, you know, the day that Will was, because I guess, like, and I guess this might correlate to the end of the episode as well, that maybe it's like Vecna's plan went into place, and now that he had the piece to the puzzle he needed, like, the Upside Down served the purpose, so it didn't need to develop anymore. It needed to just stop. He needed time to freeze, because it's like, or maybe Will landing here broke the Upside Down. It did something to the Upside Down, the reason why time froze here. So his presence here, like, did something to it. I mean, he's also the only person who survived as long as he did. Like, you know, sadly, you know, RIP to Barbs, but she didn't make it, obviously, but Will did, so managed to survive on his own for, like, days in the Upside Down, which, you know, not many people are that fortunate, you know, except for Henry, who lived here a couple years, but still. But yeah, I went on this whole diatribe, but my point is, like, why would he need to wall up Hawkins? Is it part of his plan? Because they've never run into this wall before, so it's like, right, it's a new thing, and he's specifically cutting it off from the rest of the Upside Down. I guess because maybe there's stuff out there that he's trying to keep in, or maybe there is nothingness outside of this, and this is, I brought up, like, oh, maybe the wall is part of his fortress. It's like, well, I guess all of Hawkins is his fortress, with the walls kind of acting as like a giant moat in a way, I guess, an impenetrable wall, moat, or whatever. So at the same time this was all going down, Mike and Lucas saw the military gathering up the kids. So because they don't know which kids are being targeted, we cut back to Dr. K, and there's a whole conversation she's having with Sullivan about, he's like, oh, what do you think 11's doing with the kids? She's like, killing them, protecting them, I don't know, it doesn't matter. So I was like, oh. Because my thing was like, wait, so she has Vecna, so is she lying to Sullivan? It's like, right. So she doesn't know about Vecna, as we find out in the end of at later part of the episode. So she isn't lying. She's definitely doing stuff. So I'm like, we don't know what's... Well, Sullivan and them has got to know, have some idea what's, like, going on. That isn't just a Dr. K thing, because that guy, Ackers, he knew what was behind the door, but he kept saying, like, he didn't. And that's why 11 sensed something. Well, maybe he was right. He knew something was behind the door, but he didn't know quite what it was. And 11 tapped into it, and she felt this power similar to her own and assumed it was Vecna. But it's like, no, it turns out Dr. K wasn't lying. I'd also ask the question, too, like, oh, why is Sullivan following her? It's like, oh, she's a major general, so she's high-ranking military person, which kind of is funny going back to episode 1, because I was like, oh, yeah, Linda Hamilton played like a military general, and, in resident alien, but it's like, oh, she's just playing like a doctor that's associated with all this. And it's like, no, she's actually in the military too, but she's still high ranking. And what's her obsession with all of this? I think my point that I've continued to bring up, I think is still applicable, that I do believe she might have some correlation or connection to the Hawkins lab and maybe Brenner. Like, she might have been connected to Brenner's, like, early research on this type of stuff before he, like, went off and did his own thing. Like, maybe we'll find out Brenner. I mean, we don't actually know much about Brenner's life, so I'm wondering we're going to find out, is Dr. K like Brenner's wife? Like, they worked together on this project, and then Brenner just splintered off on his own, doing his whole thing, and maybe cut Dr. K out. That might be what this all ends up being. You know, the white hair and everything. I mean, it's just getting older, sure, but it's like there might be something deeper there where it's like he's Papa, she's Mama to this whole like kids and powers and things. Like, that's why, jumping ahead, she says, I've been looking for you for a very, very long time, 11. Because 11 has always been the most exceptional of all of them. So it's got to be, the fact is that it's like, she's got to be Mama, I think is what that is. I mean, not obviously Jane's actual mom. We know it's Terry, right? Like, we know who her mom is. We know who her aunt is. But that's my only thought then on like why she's so invested in this, why she is doing what she's doing, and why she has such a vested interest in 11. Because it doesn't seem like she's just got the same mindset as the general. Like the general, not the general, whatever position Sullivan is, he's just kind of like, oh, it's got to be 11. She's the only one they're aware with these powers and stuff. So I don't even, because even like I said, Dr. K was like, oh, maybe she's protecting them, maybe she's killing them, who knows, it doesn't matter. So she's just as much in the dark about all of this. So either way, the plan is to try and jump into the facility and get to Vecna. Well, for 11 to jump inside, open the gate so that they can sneak in and then get towards Vecna and end this once and for all. Obviously, they're in communication with Dustin, Steve, Nancy, and Jonathan, but they're kind of kept on hold. And obviously Nancy's kind of panicking because it's like, oh, he has some plan to save Holly, then he should have explained. But Jonathan's like, yeah, maybe we should take a beat, like maybe we should be rushing forward. But now Nancy's kind of siding more with Steve, or we can't just sit around. And this new situation they discovered about the wall surround the circle surrounding Hawkins, at the center of it all is the lab, which I don't think that's the same place that 11, it's definitely not the same place 11 and Hopper are, because the lab is at the center of the, well, because no, it's not on the other side of the wall, it's inside the city. I'm sure the lab, because the lab's supposed to be the epicenter, so it's in the center of all this. But I don't think that's where they are. It could be, but I don't think that's where they are. But I like I said, I could be mistaken. So because that is supposed to be the place where, hey, this all started. That might be the facility. That might be where the military set up, both in the real world and in the Upside Down. The building that like the gate set up at, I'm like, is that the same place? Like I think it, I mean, it's definitely where Will was found. And because the military base, that facility is where they went into the Upside Down in season 1 to get Will anyway, right? Or, no, because they went further into the city when they were searching for, or rather into the town when they were looking for him. It's been a while since I saw season 1, so do forgive me for my terrible memory. But that's like the last time we see them is when they decide they're going to go to the lab. But anyway, 11 is timing things out for her jump. It's like, right, she takes off her shoes. She's going to like land on the metal roofs just when the thunder strikes to kind of cover the sound. So luckily it goes off without a hit. She's still doing her thing, but she gets a little ahead of the timing. One of the guards hears her at the tower. She just knocks him out and pulls him off the tower and lets him in. But just before coming in, he was looking at something, whatever it is he got in episode 1 that we're still unclear about, but it's something he's keeping hush-hush. It's meant to be his weapon against Vecna. He was focusing on that, and before coming into the gate, when 11 lets him in, and he's like, good job, kid, You giving me a heart attack, but you still did a good job. And Fur's like, thanks for everything, for the training and everything. He's like, yeah, kid, I'm kind of always good. I'm proud of you. No, he says that later on, but he was just kind of like, yeah, I got your back. And that was him. Like he said something that when he turned back around, he kind of figured this was going to be a suicide mission potentially. It's the Hail Mary, play here. But ultimately, Ackers, or pretty early on in the episode, escaped and made his way back to the base and warned them all about it. So while they were trying to get the door open to get towards quote-unquote Vecna, the alarms go off, the kryptonite gets activated, and it stunts 11. I felt bad for that one guy who they took hostage early on. Like, Hopper knocked him out and then hit, like, I was like, oh, did you use a dummy or whatever? Because I'm like, that looks like an actual person. And it's like, oh no, they just shot up. That guy was like, Jesus, that's dark. That poor bastard. But I guess it's like, hey, if you're a part of all of this, you're just as guilty. So you could, whatever. I'm not going to feel too bad about it. So we're here to shut shit down, and if people die in the process, oh well, like, you guys are the bad guys, so that's all it is. But it's still kind of like, oh man, he literally, I mean, to be fair, that was their fault for deciding to light him up and not checking ahead of time. It's just kind of like oh well, and just kept moving. I was like, but that was like dark when his body actually fell out. I was like, oh man, that's actually super dark that you murdered that guy. Hey, Hopper and his one-on-one fights. Obviously, this ain't like the Terminator dude from season 3, but Hopper ends up taking down Ackers, but ends up getting grabbed by the tentacle. Which in a previous episode, I was like, oh, is that one of the tendrils from Vecna? It's like, no, it's not one of like his thinner tendrils from his body. It's just a general slimy tendril from like the living entity that is this like wormy stuff here in the Upside Down. That's all it is. It's just probably a giant thing that they cut off from like the wall or something to just kind of experiment on, and it's choking the ever living life out of Hopper, and the doctor's trying to get some information out of him, but he's like, nah, get bit, I'm not going to break. And then 11 draws Dr. K in, gets her good time with the scissors, and then Hopper grabs the gun, grabs her ID card, and knocks her out. And Hopper's plan was to send 11 on her own way, but he's like, right, if it comes down to it to make sure he dies, I'll have to die with him. But it's like, I got to do this. I have to end this. And it's like, I'm not going to put your life in danger. I'm proud of you, kid, and kind of like, I love you. And he goes on his way. But I mean, when he's there, it's hitting him like the fear of death, because it's like, I think for him, he felt abandoned by Sarah, or her dying. And it's like, I think there's probably a part of his brain that's like, I'm seeking death because it'll bring me closer to my daughter, but it's also the notion of like, right, I'm hurting my own daughter by going off and dying. The pain of what I went through when Sarah died, do I really want to put, 11 through that again? She thought I was dead before and had to grieve me, and I found my way back into her life just to rip myself away from her. Like, how cruel is that? But when stuff starts popping off, which will circle back to that storyline with everything going on in the real world, we find out the person, the moment they go in there, I was like, is it not Vecna? Like, did he escape? Because, we cut back and forth, and it seemed like Vecna's coming through the gate at that point in the episode. So I was like, who could it be? And then we see him like, it's 8. So I was like, yeah, you thought they were going to completely abandon that storyline? No, I know it's like people's least favorite aspect of season 2, like that. I think it's episode 7 of season 2. It's like probably the episode that people like had the biggest issue with. But I think people, season 2 is the one that I think people frown upon the most. But that's always been my understanding. Maybe that's not true at all. I really like season 2. I think the show gets better and better every season. I know that's not the case for everybody. Season 1 is still the pinnacle. Once again, it's a larger conversation because some people are like, rather wish that the show was an anthology as a whole, but I'm more of a fan of these type of shows. Like I prefer that I like that the show was never an anthology, but I know that's always been other people's more interest. But whatever the case may be, and once again, my opinion is in the minority of like, I think every season gets better and better, but that's just me. Either way, tangents and all that aside, it's like interesting. So how long has Dr. K had 8? Like, maybe we'll get some backstory and find out like what happened, or like how long Dr. K caught. I mean, they've only set this up recently, obviously here in. So I wonder, like, did they already have her captured well in advance before coming to Hawkins? Because obviously 11 and 8 are the only, well, and Henry are the only ones that survive, the numbered kids who survived the lab. So, but it's kind of beautiful to see, like, oh, they're reunited again. So, but it's like, what was Dr. K trying to get out of her then? Because we know eight's powers are illusions. She can make you see stuff that isn't there. But like, what was she trying to gain from her, and why? I mean, I guess I was about to say, like, it makes sense why she needs 11, because they're the only two test subjects left once again in her mind. Because I think she isn't aware of Henry at all. Because even if she was aware of Henry, she doesn't know what he's become as Vecna, I think. And maybe she thinks, just like everyone else, that, because Brenner knew Henry was alive. Once again, we retroactively made that the case in season 4, but Brenner's always knew that Henry was alive. And maybe, like I said, if Kay was his wife, ex-wife, science partner, all of the above, there's still a chance, like, he probably he kept that to himself. So maybe that's why she has such interest in 8 and 11, because they're the only ones she's aware of. So that's my own thought. But like, what she plans to get out of all of this, I still don't know. Maybe the original plan of like why this project existed was kind of to weaponize it. Maybe that's still on the table. Okay, so I got a little distracted and kind of went to all these other story beats. But circling back to the main real world squad, after the whole Demogorgon situation, and being before, I think it was before they were, it was like revealed to them by like Mike and Lucas that they were gathering up all the military was gathering up all the kids, that going back to that point that Robin had made about the system overloading, Will was able to see something Vecna didn't want him to see, and he saw like Holly and these other kids, and it's like he's got these 12 pillars meant for kids. So it's like, why 12? And it's like, well, in totality, there was 11 like experimented on children. So that's why I was wondering, like, is he trying to do something like that? And it seems like there's a parallel with that, with just where the episode ends. Because my thought was like, is he trying to supercharge these kids to make them into like batteries for himself? And it's like there's something there. Like I said, I'll break it down more when we get into the later part of the episode where like Vecna talked about some of that. But either way, they're trying to come up with a plan to get towards these kids, because it's like, right, like these kids, they luckily got Derek, but it's like these other kids are in danger because the military can't protect them from this guy, from Vecna when he comes. So they're going to need someone on the inside. And so basically they send Derek in to kind of be their Trojan horse. Basically, he's going to gather up all the kids who've met and interacted with Henry, and then basically lead them to the bathroom where our crew goes underground, bust open, and end up like inviting all getting the kids to go through the tunnel system, where Murray's going to be waiting with a truck where he's kind of got like a padded, place for them and stuff like that. But we also have this moment that I was kind of touching on earlier about Mike talking to Will about him being, where's the episode title comes from, a sorcerer, that, unlike a wizard or whatever, who needs spell casting, a sorcerer's powers are innate, and kind of said that maybe that's what Will's case is. And in that moment, Robin sees the interaction between them, and she sees that spark. She sees it where she's like, right, and she kind of finally understands. And so she talks to Will later on in the tunnel, and she's like, right, and brings up the whole Tammy of it all. And they're like, I love Will be once again the whole thing of everyone associates with her. Oh, she's a person that was terrible at singing. It's like, yeah, I thought she was like fucking Whitney Houston. It's like, Jesus, Robin, you were down bad. But she's like, yeah, I planned out our future together. It was going to be great. It was going to be amazing. And then her and Steve got together, and she fell for Steve, and I don't remember if they got together, but definitely she fell for Steve, which, obviously Robin told Steve this back in season 3, and that's, the beginning of like when they got extra close, and, Steve found out about, her situation. But Robin was like, yeah, like basically I was sent on like a downward spiral, I wasn't focusing, my grades plummeted, like she kind of just like fell apart. because she had kind of built herself around this whole idea of like life with Tammy and stuff like that. But she's like, yeah, it's not until like she found like some old stuff from when she was a kid being recorded that she saw like, oh yeah, here I was just so happy and filled with wonderment, and it made her realize like, right, I've been looking for validation in who I am in other people for those answers on who I am when the answers are here inside of me the entire time. And it's just kind of like, and now she's kind of, because of that, she's kind of finally embraced, she stopped being scared and embraced herself wholly for who she is, Rockin' Robin. And I was like, that's beautiful. And I was like, I like that this conversation happened. It was very important. It was very needed for Will. Just once again, the whole point I've constantly stressed the entire time is this way he doesn't feel as alone, and knows that there's someone else there who understands him, understands what he's going through. And I think for Robin, it means a lot to her to be able to do that for someone, because she didn't have anyone to kind of give her that advice. She had to come down to her on her own, but to kind of be able to pass that on to Will, I thought that was kind of beautiful and nice. So we have Derek, who's no longer dipshit Derek. He's delightful Derek, and it being Joyce, being like, yo, sometimes the kids just need someone to believe in them, because even like Lucas is like, I can't believe it comes down to like Derek freaking Turnbow, but it's like, no, sometimes the kids just need someone to believe in them. And so Derek gathers up all the kids who've met with Mr. Whatsit, and the plan is to one by one get them to lead to the bathroom. I figured something was up, because I was like, well, that girl, I think her name was Ashley, was in the bathroom first. I thought maybe there would have been an issue immediately, like she would have drawn attention to the bathroom because she heard, like, because the guys ended up hitting the piping, like, because they missed the stall and they just hit, like, the water piping. So I was like, oh god, but that didn't happen. But it eventually leads to an issue. But one by one, leading the kids through, everything turns out fine. I love the little like little tactic where he's like, oh yeah, like I'm teaching them visualization. He's like, it's what my mom does when she runs out of Valium. And you're like, oh Jesus, dude. But yeah, got a lot of the kids there, but not all of them were able to get through. There was like one or two that was about to go down the tunnel, while like Mike and Will and Derek tried to hold back the army, but they all got captured. Lucas is in the tunnel with like one or two, and he's trying to take off with them. Robin and Murray have like the three that made it all the way through at first. But then, like, being captured by the military, stuff starts popping off because the Demogorgons run through. And it's even more of a massacre than the freaking, very reminiscent of the prison situation when that one Demogorgon wrecked shop. And now you got, like, 3 in total, maybe. Initially, like, popping in here, wrecking shop, ripping people apart. Yeah, I thought it was interesting too how they filmed it, because it was very reminiscent. I want to say that was episode 4. I want to say it might have been episode 3 or maybe 4 of last season. It's that sequence inside of the buyer's house in California where you had that one cop leading them, and it's almost like this like one shot where you're just like, it's all kind of like one take, or at least if there are any cuts, they're really heavily, hidden. But it was like this really steady cam situation with a cop, and it kind of reminded me of that where we're following Mike and the kids, but we're seeing all this stuff happen around them. It was very similarly shot, so I thought that was interesting. And they were trying to make their way over to the Radio Shack, but the problem is the Demogorgons arrive, and then lo and behold, the big boss himself steps out. Pretty brutal what he does. I think one of the last people he kills, I want to say that's Ramirez, which is the whole thing about like, oh, he's the one that went to Kay about like, do we really need to be you? If that was him, it might not have been him, but I'm pretty sure it was. He's the last guy to die, because she's like, oh, can you not protect these kids? He's like, yes, I can, ma'am. And lo and behold, couldn't. But yeah, like him just like stabbing those people, especially that guy, like stabbing through his head and the spikes went through his, just like, Jesus. I think the Duffers did. I was watching something where apparently someone was covering the fact that like the Duffers talked about like there's going to be some pretty brutal kills this season or something like that. There's going to be some pretty brutal deaths and stuff like that. But yeah, that was pretty brutal. I mean, granted, the Demogorgon just like rips people apart and stuff like that, but that was just kind of like a close up shot of just like Vecna spiking and just going through that guy's face. It's just gnarly. But yeah, like everyone's kind of knocked out. Sullivan, I think he's still alive. He got caught up by the explosion from the guy with the flamethrower. Like it exploded. The other guys got hit from it, and Sullivan's on fire, and that's the last time we see him screaming. So he might have be put out in time. He might still be alive, or maybe got burned to a crisp. You kind of hope it's the latter, just because it's like you're the reason so much shit has gone wrong since last season. So you kind of deserve this, but it is what it is. Probably a good chance he's actually still alive. But then Vecna comes over to Will and brings him over, and it's like, oh, do you know why I picked these kids? Because they're both weak physically and like mentally. They're easy to get through. And he kind of basically pulls a little bit, if you've watched this most recent season of Gen V, kind of a similar mentality as our villain. He has a point about like how easy it is to get into somebody. It's kind of that similar thing where he's like, you proved to me how easy it is to break, because you broke so easily, Will. This is all possible because of you. The fact is that I learned it was possible. And why he wants these kids, he wants them to be his vessels. So I don't know if they're meant to be almost like Horcruxes. Like, I don't know if that's what that's necessarily supposed to be. Like, he's trying to, like, implant a part of himself in all of them. So all 12 vessels become him. And that way, there's more of him. And he's able, like, that's why I'm wondering, like, is he trying to, like, do they have the potential, these particular kids? Or is he going to make them into kind of numbered, like, experiments, like, with powers and stuff. And then make them Horcruxes so that they're all him and he can be even more powerful, because basically he was bringing up the whole conversation about like Will and his like feeling like he doesn't belong. It's like, yeah, this world, it's like they don't belong to this world, they belong to mine or something like that. So, but kind of like obviously that messing with Will, making him be like, oh, if like because I broke, it allowed Vecna to get to where he is right now, and all these other people, like it's meant to kind of break Will a little. And in that moment, like, Vecna just leaves, making the biggest mistake of his life. I wonder, is Will supposed to be number 12? Because he's got, like, the plan is, I think, 11 kids in total. Because I think he's got the 11. I think he's still just missing the one, and that's Will. But maybe he feels like he doesn't need Will anymore. It's like, you served your purpose, so I don't know if he's going to find a different 12th person. Or he's just kind of like, it's not necessary because you filled your role. You won't be a part of this, but I'm going to leave you here to suffer so you can see what I'm about to do. And so at that moment, Mike, Lucas, and Robin all get attacked. I mean, this is after the Demogorgons drag away all the kids. So like I said, that's like at least like 7 kids in total. And like I said, I think he already had like 3 or 4. I think it's 4 including Holly. They said like, yeah, he had kidnapped 3 other kids. So he's already got 11. So that's what's bringing up the 12th. But in that one moment, thinking back to what Robin said, that pivotal conversation about like, stop being scared. And we had those younger memories of Will when he first met Mike and became best friends with him. Memories with his mom, him and his brother Jonathan building Fort Myer. And in that one moment, I said Byers. And in that moment, Will pulls an 11, grabs and stops all the Demogorgons, his eyes turning white, and then he pulls a Vecna and breaks them. You're like, Jesus, that's badass. And just like the last shot of the episode is his eyes like turning back to normal, him bleeding from his nose, and he wiping it, pulling up. I'm like, oh shit, that's sick. So luckily 11 obviously isn't alone in this fight. Like, Will's unlocked his powers, and whether it's just specifically tied to the Demogorgons or whether he can do more with this, we'll have to wait and see. But it's like, it probably is because he's embraced himself kind of being that mirror image to Vecna in a lot of ways, because he's able to connect to the hive mind being the first one. Like, and like I said, Will done something no one's really done before to be able, outside of Vecna himself, survive as long as he did on his own inside of the Upside Down. Obviously not as long, but it's shown that Will has that tenacity and that bravery and the like will, to see it through and to keep pushing and not give up. So yeah, hell of a way to end off this first part. Very, very excited to see where this all takes us in the next batch of episodes, which will be on, I think it will be Christmas. Okay, yeah, so it is Christmas Day. I was kind of wondering, like, was it Christmas Eve? But no, it's like, it is Christmas Day. So, obviously got a little less than a month, but still excited to see where those next 3 episodes take us. And then, obviously, on, was it New Year's Eve, we'll have the big climactic finale. So, it's going to be interesting to see where the next 3 episodes take us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. To the next Tell Me, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.